I feel the most qualified to talk about the topic of AI, artificial intelligence and architecture. That's something which I think is quite contemporary problem.
Dobrý den, já se jmenuji Regina Loukotová a představuji vám další díl našeho ARCHIP podcastu. Dnes se Shotou Tsikoliou. Ahoj, Shoto.
Ahoj.
A podcast bude v angličtině. Ještě dodám, že vedu školu architektury, která se jmenuje ARCHIP a která v Praze, v Česku, v Evropě působí už 13. rokem s magisterským a bakalářským programem. We turn to English now. Shota is our teacher, Shota Tsikoliya, practicing architect here in Prague, but having international projects, teaching not only at our school at ARCHIP, but also at the Academy of Applied Arts here in Prague. And we know each other and we collaborate since 10 years, maybe?
Yes, almost, I think so.
We started with the Global Architecture and Design program in collaboration with the CIEE organization here. But before we go into details about teaching and your role at our school, I'd like to ask you, why did you study architecture? Why did you decide for studying this field?
Okay, well, I guess it would be fair to start that a certain role in that played the fact that my father is an architect, so it was something I kind of grew up with. I knew the field, or at least I thought I do. So that, of course, played a big role. I was interested in it. I think earnestly can say I wanted to be that. When I was figuring out to which schools, to which universities to apply, I was studying gymnasium, so I didn't study any sort of applied middle school. I was thinking about architecture. I was thinking a little bit about product design because I liked car design. And also I was thinking about physics, because that's something I was quite good at in school. But at the end, physics, I was a bit, I guess, afraid that it would be too hard, or that people I talked to who studied physics, all of them knew for sure that's the only thing they want to study. And I wasn't like that. So I thought maybe if you study something like that, you should be sure. If you are not sure, that's not for you. With card or product design, I went to consult my portfolio, and I was told that most of the people who apply for it deal with it much more already during the middle school. And architecture, I felt that I couldn't do that.
Probably
so.
You didn't consult anybody, so that's why
I consulted once. I consulted Professor Kyle, who was later my first architecture professor. So.
Yeah, I think it's very, very tricky. Actually, what can shift your, let's say, decision-making process in this early stage, depending so much on whom you meet, whom you talk to, and so on. But this is a kind of interesting start, also relevant because yesterday I had a talk with one of our students in the first year, and she was also unsure, whether architecture was a good choice, that she would rather make something like smaller interior design, product design, and so on. So I think these thoughts are actually very normal and natural at that stage. So where did you study?
I studied at the Academy of Arts in Prague. I was sort of lucky, or it was kind of Academy of Arts has very specific education system, very old school, that you apply to a certain studio, to a certain professor, master, and you stay with him and he shapes you like it was 100 years ago. But I went there when it was the sort of end of the career of Professor Kyle. I was with him for 2 years and then he retired, and then German architecture group, Raumlabor Berlin, came to teach there, which was again supposed to be for a longer period of time, but because of some internal issues, they only stayed for 2 years. And then for last 2 years of my study, I was studying under the supervision of Imre Vaško, Professor Imre Vaško, who is till now my close cooperator. I work with him there. So while I studied in a very conservative school, I had this kind of very different program, switched a lot of people.
That's interesting. Actually, with Raumlabor, with this Berlin-based group studio, we also collaborated. We actually introduced them to Czech let's say, public scene. We did within our Recite festival their pavilion, which was called Rosie. It was at the platform behind the National Museum, where we organized different public events, classes, dancing classes, and with Imro Vaško, we also collaborated before at our different programs. And as far as I remember, you didn't study only in the Czech Republic. You also combined your studies with other activities and also study abroad program.
Yes, you remember correctly. After I finished, I was not sure what to do, and one of the kind of opportunities Imro offered me if I would want to continue as in a PhD program in UMPRUM. And I was particularly interested in topics of generative design, scripting in architecture. There was a lot of stuff I could learn from Imro and at that time his assistant Martin Xantner. But other than that, in UMPRUM there weren't a lot of people dealing in that field. So I looked for more expertise, and I applied for another master program in the University of Stuttgart, where Achim Menges was teaching then, still teaching now, in Institute of Computational Design, which is within the university. It's a big institute. I don't know, I think now there are like 40 people there, teachers, 40. So there was huge amount of expertise to learn from. I went there. It was extremely valuable for me. Both in terms of this particular expertise, scripting, designing through generative algorithms, but also in terms of different approach to education. It's technical school, very different than what I was experienced with, different environment, lots of hands-on work, lots of building prototypes physically, cooperating a lot with other mostly scientific fields, so we cooperate a lot with biologists, engineers, etc. So that was great experience.
And how big was your group, or how many students you were collaborated with?
Within the master program which I was going through in Stuttgart, within 1 year there were maybe 15 students, something like that, 12,
so
15.
So you worked with them on daily basis?
Yes, exactly. But this is 2 years master program, so all together around 30 maybe. And mostly you cooperate with students in your own year, but there were things like, for example, the research pavilions, which the institute was famous for, which were done by people from both years, additionally to PhD students. So that was really big project. I think around 40 people were involved. Also managing these big projects was great experience, because also the management was outsourced to students, project management, etc. So of course we were taught how to do it, but it was something I haven't done before.
So can you describe a little bit, probably in more details, how was the collaboration between tutors and students? Were there any borders between students?
In Stuttgart?
In Stuttgart,
there are lots of borders. It's I teach sometimes American students here during this JD program which you mentioned. We had American students in ARCHIP, and they are very. They have no borders. The hierarchy is very flat, and they take you as equal. And compared to that, Czech education is much more hierarchized, but it's nothing compared to German education. You have to ask for an appointment to talk to a PhD student, and PhD student has to ask for an appointment to talk to an assistant professor. An assistant professor needs an appointment to talk to associate professor. So that was extremely vertical. I think it was not... there are lots of good things I learned from Stuttgart, but also that's one of the things I thought I would try to avoid in future. It was not helping.
Okay, then probably it's not definitely not on all schools, because, for example, our experience is when we have like schools we collaborate with, It's a Dessau School of Architecture based in Dessau in former Eastern Germany, where actually the hierarchy I experienced there was not there. Actually, it was, as you described, the American experience. You know, it was very like this. The teachers actually are the colleagues of students, so they work on the project together. So that was it. And after, you know, I remember actually while you were in Stuttgart, and our collaboration started too. And now for a few years, you lead together with Andrzej the studio here. So would you just mention a few words about, you know, what do you do now? What is the scope of your work? We have the common topic of sharing for this academic year. So how you interpreted that topic into your studio last semester and this semester?
What we did last semester and what we do now differs a lot. So generally, we always hope to have a common idea of some sort of experimentation or experimental approach being common for all semesters of our studio, but then the topics and the approaches differ. So last semester we were dealing with mostly residential projects, and we thought, which was a big change for us, that we would take an actual client and an actual projects and give it to students, and then also invite those people to access or judge the students' work. So we cooperated with a private company, Skanska, and with a public or publicly funded, I guess, company, PDS Prague Development Society. They gave us two tasks to developing areas in the outskirts of Prague. One was concerned purely with housing, and because it was maybe not necessarily social housing, but definitely housing for very wide groups of population.
Like affordable
housing, yes, definitely affordable housing. And another was a mix of housing and other programs. Sharing was a big part of it, because, well, by sharing things you make them more affordable. When you cannot affect the price of materials, the price of land, but you can afford how you use that land. So that was interesting experience. I think students quite liked it. I think they were happy that they're working on something very real. We tried not to make it too real at the end, because that's one of the advantages being in school, that you can sometimes trespass the borders. This semester is different. This semester we have very abstract topic of a terrain, dramatic terrain, basically building in a dramatic terrain, how terrain affects architecture. And we also gave, since there are very little boundaries, we didn't give our students a particular site. They have to pick it, particular function. It has to be related with residents, but it could be supplemented by what they want. We gave them an additional border, and that is the tool with which they design, and this is physical models. So this semester really focused on how to build architecture, design architecture, but also present architecture through physical models, conceptual models, presentation models, diagrammatic models, etc. But that's the kind of only tool they're going to use.
Probably I would just add that this semester we work for Prague. We do projects for Prague. And last semester it was actually in your studio was also Prague project, but we didn't focus only on Prague. But this time we do it together with the Y Factory, TU Delft-based research unit led by Winnie Maas from MVRDV. So all our studios are actually working on that topic, but always taking it from a different, let's say, perspective. So that's what we do in here. But my third question would be, what do you do in your private business? I know you have a small, probably it's growing studio. So would you just share with us your experience, how it is to combine both? Yeah. Combine, I mean, teaching and the own practice, as well as what projects you are working on. What are the most interesting projects which you would like to mention here?
We are growing, but I think we are still small. I'm part of an architectural studio called COLLARCH, together with Andrei Yanko, who is also my partner here, and also Veronika Komova, our other colleague, and we have a couple of other people working, cooperating with us. Since it's a business, you have to sometimes you don't have that of a choice of which projects you are working on, but we still try to find always something interesting. Mostly these are projects of small to medium scale. If I talk about the smaller but interesting ones, we are for some time already cooperating on very experimental project of a 3D printed bus stop for the city of Bratislava. We are cooperating with a technological company called ICE, who is concerned with the 3D printing technologies, and the bus stop is printed from concrete. We are experimenting with shapes, with structures. It's quite interesting, although there is limited scale. We have quite a lot of cooperation with car manufacturing company Magna, for whom we designed several interior spaces. We designed their canteen space in their factory in Nymburk. Generally, I would say gastro industry, restaurants, cafes are quite important for us. It's something where you can where clients are sort of more willing to experiment and try things, or include somehow art in their objects more than in other functions. We were able to realize a cafe container in Prague, and or the wine bar, a wine list also in Prague, and among bigger projects, it's very fresh. But I think it can be mentioned. We are cooperating, or we are participating in a competition or invite competition, so it's not anonymous, for Budvar in České Budějovice, urban development for Budvar. So that's probably biggest in scale we did so far. So I'm looking forward how that would go.
Super, thank you. And my last question is about the current problems, not all problems, current issues within our field, within architecture, urban planning, landscape architecture. Is there something you would like to highlight or comment or share with us?
I was thinking for a while what to answer this, but I guess if I have to, I feel the most qualified to talk about the topic of AI, artificial intelligence, and architecture. That's something which I think is quite contemporary problem or notion. I guess people who are a little bit interested in AI have noticed things like ChatGPT or Midjourney, which were published or somehow available for public to use or to play with a couple of years ago, and obviously it affected architecture. And I think at the time, really a lot of architects thought, okay, this is something, this is a game changer. What should we do with it? And I think we still don't have the answer. At the time, I thought the worst thing which can happen with this, it would be sort of a fancy Pinterest board. So, when clients come to us with an office, they often bring different references. I want my look like that and a bit like that. And now they can actually type it and generate it, and they would come up with a rendering. And what can you do about it? The best way, I guess, how to use it would be to realize that the way these programs, this prompt to image software work, is they create some sort of a synthesis of the images which are there on the internet, online. And if they are smart, if they are good, these programs, they can kind of tweak it to your liking. But that I don't think that gives something particularly interesting, except that it shows us the biases of our society and the biases of the person who is using it. So that's actually a good thing, because it's a really great reflection of where we live. And if we use it like that, if we use it to actually study our biases, which otherwise could be unnoticeable, then maybe there is an opportunity. But I myself am a pessimist. I think we will end up with a Pinterest board. So there is that. Maybe one more thing I have to mention. There are obviously a couple of people who are dealing with it very seriously. Daniel Boloyan comes to mind, who is a researcher. Right now I think he's in the United States, and he cooperated a lot with Wolf Prix and Kub Himmelblau, and he created a software called, I forgot the name, but basically the software worked kind of similar to Midjourney, only it used only the library of Kub Himmelblau to generate more and more of their projects. And right now he's also working, and other people are working on not being limited to images, to 2D, but to 3D. I think this has a lot of potential. I guess I'm not qualified enough to say if we are 3 years from the point where this can be actually working, or we are 33 years from that point. With things like that, unless you are really deep in the field, you never know.
Interesting. Now, when you mentioned the library, and that they work only with the library of Kub Himmelblau, actually, we as an architects, we have quite a big libraries, aren't we? I mean, all projects which have been drawn in the office but never realized, so many competitions which we took part in but never won. So actually every studio has quite a rich library which you can work with. Interesting. I think we will dedicate another podcast only to AI and the potential of this kind of new technology in our field. So thank you very much for coming. Have a nice weekend, and
Thank
see you
you
soon.
Thanks.
Děkuji za pozornost a těším se na příští podcast. Naschledanou.